My name's David Wilson. I'm the pressure manager for pressure and temperature products here at SOR. Today I want to talk about the SOR 800 series pressure transmitters and really what separates them from the competition. So just kind of an overview of what we're going to cover. We're going to get into the principles of operation, really how the transmitter works. From there, we'll do a brief product overview of the different tiers of transmitters in the 800 series. And then we're gonna talk about we're really gonna get into the competitive advantages of the 800 series. Then we'll move on to some specific applications where the SOR transmitters have had success. And finally, I'll do a conclusion, and hopefully at the end we'll have some time for some questions. So go ahead and move along here. Principles of operation. So really, how does this all work? Here's a diagram of the design of the transmitter, and you've got your process connections over there. Pressure comes in through the process connection. It's translated by the transducer, which then passes on an electrical signal to the amplifier board. From there, the signals pass to the main PCB and then also through the electrical conduit onto your PLC or your control room. And we've also got a layer of insulation around all the electronics within the housing. And really, the main thing to keep in mind here is how the sensor works, and it's really taking advantage of a Wheatstone bridge circuit, which is displayed here on the left. Basically, you've got two known resistors and two variable resistors within this circuit. The two variable resistors are also known as strain gauges, and they actually change their resistance depending on mechanical stresses that are applied to them. So this circuit's placed on the diaphragm of the sensor, and as pressure is applied to that diaphragm, the resistance of those variable resistances is going to change. And so when those resistances change, you get changes in voltage at node A and node B. When the pressure is at 0%, these voltages at A and B are going to be equal. But once the resistance starts changing in reaction to the pressure, there's a difference in voltage between those 2 points. This difference in voltage corresponds directly to the change in pressure, and that's really how the sensor takes the pressure and translates it to an electrical signal. So the next thing, now that we kind of went over how it works, I want to just kind of overview the different tiers and models within the 800 series. So there's 4 different models here, and it really all started with 805 PT. This is our low-cost option, and it gives you your standard continuous pressure monitoring. Step up from there, you've got the 805 QS, which has the same specs as the 805 PT, but it offers your solid-state switch output with 3 configurations. And then you really make a big leap to the 815 PT, which is our smart pressure transmitter. It gives you HART communications, Modbus communications, and then it also gives you the solid-state switch output with 9 configurations instead of 3. And then you move on to the 815 DT, which has the same specs as the PT, but you've got a different process connection there. You've got your high pressure side and your low pressure side. So this next table, it kind of fills in the chart, and I went over the different features as they increase from each model, but this kind of illustrates that. As you can see, the response time is slower for the smart transmitters than for the 805s, and this is because the 815s have a microprocessor on the board, which gives you those serial communications, and it adjusts the signal, and that's really what adds to your response time. But with the 815s, you've got a little bit better accuracy. You've got 0.1% as opposed to 0.25%. And the housings for all of these designs are the exact same. So you've got 316 stainless steel cast housing, same process connections, same electrical connections, and all of these transmitters have a 3-year warranty. And just a few additional options that we offer for the 800 series. We offer FM dual seal approval, which is a safety, it's just an extra layer of safety. We've got a flush mount liquid filled diaphragm seal. This is particularly used for applications that are sticky or can get a lot of paraffin buildup or something like that built up in the crevices. So this flush face doesn't really give the process anywhere to build that up at. So you don't have any of that congestion and you don't have accuracy issues or things like that. We also offer an explosion-proof LCD display for local indication. Then we have a pipe mounting kit for ease of installation. So we've kind of covered how it works and the different tiers. Now we're going to get into the specific advantages of the 800 series. The first advantage I want to talk about is really the solid-state switch output. And just to describe this, it's a single pole, single throw switch, and what it can be used for is basically anything you would use a normal switch for. You can use it for signaling. You can use it to maybe control a pump or a motor, even emergency shutdowns or to trigger an alarm, things like that. So this switch gives you just a whole nother level of control as well as your continuous monitoring. There's up to 9 configurations. You can turn it off if you just don't want to use it. There's a single point mode. There's a window mode, pulse width modulation, and then also a deadband mode. And each of these modes have normally open and normally closed variations. So I kind of skipped over the single point because that's pretty basic. It's just you have a set point and the switch is either normally open or normally closed before that set point, and when it reaches the set point, it switches to its other output, either closed or open. So focusing on the windowed mode now, how this works, and you've got 2 set points, you've got a low and a high, and what's illustrated here is a normally open window mode, which means between those 2 set points, the switch is going to be normally open, and outside of those set points, it's going to be closed. And this is really applied to those applications where it's very critical to keep your pressure within a certain range or outside of a certain range. And then the next couple modes we'll talk about are pulse width modulation. So how this works is if the pressure is at 90% of your set point, for pulse low, if the pressure is at 90% of your set point, then the switch is going to be on 90% of the time. And then as you change the percentage of the set point, the switch on percentage changes as well. Pulse high is the exact same idea, but it's opposite. So how that works is if the pressure is at 10% of the set point, the switch is on 10% of the time for pulse high mode. This sort of thing is used for controlling the voltage of a pump or maybe how much a valve is opened, depending on the process pressure. And so the last switch output configuration we'll talk about is the deadband mode. So what this does is it creates a buffer around your set point where you've actually got a high set point and a low set point, and you choose the percentage that you want to create around that set point. So in this example, the switch is going to be closed until it reaches the high set point, and then it's going to turn off, and then it won't turn back on until it gets back down to the low set point. And this is really for applications where there's a lot of chatter around the set point. Maybe you're fluctuating constantly, and if you're controlling a pump or motor, then turning it on or off repeatedly can be damaging to the unit. So this is really a layer of protection for applications like that. So moving on from the solid-state switch, the next advantage that I'm going to talk about is really the durability of this transmitter. So these things were built to be used in very hazardous areas, and you don't have to be afraid to throw them around. They can take a beating. So the main point of durability here is welded stainless steel sensor. Because that stainless steel sensor is welded into the design, it removes the need for an O-ring, which then takes one less variable out of the equation for leakage and things like that. The next part of the durability to think about is the 316 stainless steel cast housing. Because this is a cast housing, it creates very high overpressure and burst pressure capabilities for these transmitters. And I've kind of displayed that the table of burst pressures over there. And then lastly, for the durability, we've got hermetically sealed wire leads to create an explosion-proof device. And then also, here's kind of the remaining advantages. So the third one that we're going to talk about is dimensions and weight, and this is kind of this just comes with being a stick transmitter. It's just smaller, it's more compact. It's about 6 inches tall, weighs 1.8 pounds. So this really gives you an advantage for those applications where space is restricted and you don't have as much room to install the device. The next point is extensive pressure ranges. Many other competitor transmitters, they can't reach the pressure ranges that we offer. We go from 0 to 5 psi all the way to 0 to 30,000 psi. And so many of the competitors kind of top out at 10,000 psi or somewhere around there. So we just provide the option to monitor even higher pressures than that. The fifth point is just the balance of value that you're going to get, the balance of price and features that you get with these transmitters, and particularly the 815s. You're getting a really feature-packed product standard with every transmitter. You're getting HART Modbus, you're getting external zero and span adjustment, which I've illustrated over here. The external zero and span adjustment are really they're used by applying a magnetic source to either the circle on the side of the housing or the triangle on the side of the housing. The circle's for the zero and the triangle's for the span. But anyways, all these features come standard with each 815, and you don't have to pick and choose which ones you're getting, and it's all in a competitively priced package. So it's really just creates a great value for you. For the 6 points, we've got large compensated temperature range for these transmitters. So the compensated temperature range is from negative 40 C to positive 80 C, and simply the competitive transmitters, many of the stick style competitive transmitters just can't reach that low of a temperature range. They kind of bottom out at about negative 20 degrees C, somewhere along those lines. And then finally, for the design advantages is the response time. So 815s in particular, for smart transmitters, usually the response time is quite high, maybe 100 milliseconds, all the way to around 300 milliseconds is the range of response times for some traditional transmitters. But for the 800 series, we've got a response time of 70 milliseconds, so it's quite a bit faster than some of those competitive units out there. So reviewing those advantages, and really these next couple slides are going to be comparing those advantages and how they apply to, this first one is how it applies to traditional transmitters, and the next one's going to be stick transmitters. So why choose an 800 series pressure transmitter over a traditional transmitter? Really, switch output and durability. I'm going to use that on both slides because that's really the two things that 800 series has on both of these different types of transmitters. The traditional, you're not going to get the same durability because it's not in a compact cast housing, so it's just not going to be as durable. And then also you're not getting your switch control output to control other devices or the process. So the second point is transmitters are installed in tight or space restrictive applications. So if you're maybe quoting transmitters for a chemical injection skid or something like that where space is going to be tight, then the 800 series is going to be a better choice for you than traditional. And I've kind of displayed that with this picture on the left here. You can see the traditional transmitters are about 3 times as large as the 800 series, and this really plays a part whenever you're restricted on space. Also, another point to consider is just the price of the product. if you're really worried and price is a very strong factor in your decision, then you're going to save a lot of money by going with 800 series as opposed to these traditional transmitters. And you're not losing a whole lot because you're still getting the serial communication capabilities and the smart transmitter functions that you get with a traditional transmitter. And then finally, extreme vibration applications. These kind of apply to back to the durability of the transmitters. Because the 800 series are smaller and less weight than the traditional transmitters, they're going to be less responsive to vibration on your application. You're going to get less stress on the process connection and other parts of the transmitter. So then moving on to why would you choose an 800 series transmitter over other stick-style transmitters? I'm going to hammer away again at the switch output and durability because that's a constant between these two. But since I've already explained that, I'll move on to the next one. So you've got high accuracy. If that's a big requirement for you, then the 800 series really beats most of the other stick-style transmitters. With A15s have an accuracy of 0.1%, and some of the other highest accuracies in stick-style transmitters might be 0.2% or 0.25%. If communication protocols are needed, there are other stick-style transmitters that offer communication protocols, but the majority do not. An 815 PT does offer HART and Modbus. And then also FM dual seal approval. Comparing to other transmitters, not everybody offers this second level of safety, and that's an option on all the 800 series. So moving on from the design advantages, we're going to talk about the customer service advantages. So this really comes down to how SOR acts as a company. So we've got factory calibration for how the customer specifies on every unit, so where they want the set point, how they want it spanned, basically how you want this transmitter set up, we're going to do for you so that whenever you get the transmitter, you can just take it out and install it and you don't have to worry about messing with it. And then if you tuned into our last webinar, you probably got this next point on that webinar as well. SOR processed 600 customer special requests in 2016, and that resulted in 300 specs being written. So this really just illustrates our desire to do the special things or the hard things that customers ask of us. We're not going to turn down an opportunity just because it's hard. And just an example of some of those engineered specials. So we've done longer cable lengths. Recently we've done an order for 5-meter cable lengths. We've done firmware changes to the software for Modbus. We've done cable glands for the electrical conduit in order to make these transmitters submersible. And we've also done special pressure ranges, mostly vacuum ranges. Maybe customer needed a pressure range of negative 40 psi to 150 psi or something along those lines, and we also process those special requests as well. So I kind of said it earlier, we want to do the right thing even though it's the hard thing for our customers. So moving on to delivery advantages, I'm going to talk about a couple programs that SOR offers that kind of help in the delivery of these. So we've got the SOR Series Quick Ship program. For this program, there's a maximum order quantity of 3 units. This applies to 805 PTs, 815 PTs, and 815 DTs, and it applies to the most in-demand ranges. So this is for urgent situations where the transmitter is needed immediately. If you've got a factory shutdown or something like that, and you really need the transmitter now, then we're going to ship up to 3 units to you within 2 business days guaranteed. And as I said, exceptions do apply for maybe some of the higher pressure ranges or ranges that are in less demand. We may not have as many of those in stock. So some applications where the 800 series has really shown off some of its advantages and had success. Well, this is just a very broad overview of the oil and gas applications, and I've kind of highlighted some of the ones that are most popular for pressure transmitters or most useful, but we'll move on to the specifics here. So this is an application where the pressure transmitters were being used to monitor wellhead casing and tubing. And on an oil field, you're really gonna experience some very strenuous rigors and activities in the oil field. And in this case, the customer had other pressure transmitters that they were installing, and they would use pipe wrenches for installation, and they were crushing the housing of these other transmitters. So they were really losing their cost, or increasing their cost of ownership by replacing these transmitters constantly. So we gave them some SOR 805 PTs, and this is really just a tribute to the durability that I've been talking about of these transmitters. You're able to put that pipe wrench on there and install it, and there's no issues at all, and they haven't had any issues. So that really just speaks to the durability of the transmitters. And the second application, this is really an application that the 805 QS was designed for. It's a wellhead pump protection application. So in this application, they like to keep or they need to keep the pressure within a certain window of pressures for the flow lines. And what they use the 805 QS for is they used it to control a pump within the low and high pressures. Additionally, for this application, there were clogging issues with paraffin buildup, and so an S port was added on to the 805 QS in order to prevent clogging buildup. And finally, within this application, they took advantage of the fail-safe protection, where basically if the transmitter loses power, it's going to switch its output to open as a fail-safe. So this application really displays the solid-state switch output of the 800 series and how valuable it can be in certain applications. The last application I want to talk about is the chemical injection skid application. So basically, these remote tanks are filled with a corrosive inhibiting chemical that's pumped into an oil well or a pipeline, and this chemical really extends the life of the pipeline or the oil well. And what they needed was a way to measure the level of the tank, of the chemicals within the tank. So using an 815 DT, we were able to do that for them. We hooked up the high pressure side to the bottom of the tank, and then the low pressure side was vented to atmosphere. And this differential pressure corresponds directly to the level within that chemical injection skid. So then they were able to monitor it, and when the level got too low, they knew that they needed to go out and refill it. Also, this was a remote location, solar powered, so the power consumption of the transmitter was a big deal as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I've typed up a conclusion here. Hopefully it's not too wordy, but I'm going to read it off to you guys. So since launching the 805 PT, SOR is committed to continuously updating and advancing its 800 series line of pressure transmitters. Now, the SOR 800 series provides multiple tiers of transmitters, all of which boast top-of-the-line durability, compact size, and ease of use. The 815 PT and 815 DT represent the highest tier of 800 series and come with a HART Modbus 4 to 20 milliamp and 1 to 5 volt DC output, a configurable switch output, external zero and span capabilities, 316 stainless steel housing, and an accuracy of plus or minus 0.1%. All of these features come standard, so you don't have to pick and choose which ones you want, and these models are still very competitively priced. The 800 series has many advantages over its customers: solid-state switch output, durability, competitive pricing, a quick ship program, and a team of SOR employees that is excited to provide support and develop engineered specials. So for those that appreciate reliable, easy-to-use pressure transmitters that are supported by a competent and responsive customer service team, look no further than the SOR 800 series next time you're in need.